Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your time. My name is Tracy, and I'm the founder and author of Her Stories Untold, a global book project sharing different empowering, inspiring stories of women around the globe from all walks of life. The reason this project was created was because I realized that there are so many women out there that have stories to share, journeys that have been taken, but not realizing their own significance and importance. So the project is open to all women around the globe. If you have a story of your journey of how you came to be, whom and where you are today, please do check out www.herstoriesuntold.com. And the purpose of this global book project is to empower, uplift, and inspire other women. Now, before we begin our talk today, I want to acknowledge that the land on which I live and work is the traditional and unceded territory of the Quetzalcoatl Nation and lies within the shared traditional territories of Tsleil Waututh, Katia, Musqueam, Squamish, Kaiket, and Stolo First Nations. Very importantly, I want to warmly welcome everyone joining us here today, and especially to Lynn that I have here. I want to also honor and thank Lynn for sharing her story and writing her book, Choosing Survival: How I Endured a Brutal Attack and a Lifetime of Trauma Through the Power of Action, Choice, and Self-Expression. Lynn, please tell us more about this.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me. Gosh, where to start? The bulk of the book takes place when I was attacked when I was 21. And we can get into that more, but I had suffered from things, prior to that, where be depression or things, like that. And I feel like this book has been like 20 years in the making. It's always been kind of in the back of my mind, thinking that like, gosh, this is such a wild story. Like I should just write a book because there's so much to it, but never really knowing what the right time would be, the why, what's the purpose of it. And I think finally I just got to a place where I had enough healing and enough experience to be able to put this in writing in hopes that it would help other people and give them courage to also share their story. Because like you said, we all have life experiences. They're all worth sharing, and we all are worth being listened to and heard. So I hope that, by sharing my story, it also helps other people to be seen and heard as well.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Somebody commented just very quickly. They're trying to watch this talk live, but they're not able to. So I think for those of you that are actually trying to access this talk live right now, please do go visit the Her Stories Untold page, Facebook page, and you will see another link that says live, and you can click in to join to watch this live together. So sorry, just sharing that. So ensuring that our people can see our talk right now. So that's great. Yeah. No, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important. And I wanted to ask you, the question about, it's such a brave thing to be able to talk, and it certainly takes such a long time to get to a place where one is comfortable to begin to share their story, their journey, all the events that have happened. I wanted to ask you, what made you feel the most vulnerable about sharing your story?
I think when this happened to me, I felt very alone, and I felt like no one believed me, or they would kind of come up with, oh, well, you must have known him, or you must have done this, or something. I kind of felt blamed, like I must have done something to cause this to happen to me. And I think the biggest fear I had was kind of putting myself through all of that again, because that was deeply, deeply painful for me. And that was probably the scariest, of thinking like, am I just going to put myself out there to be looked at like I'm, full of crap, or, not believed, or this is too crazy to be true, or any of that kind of stuff, that was the scariest part for me, really. It was just kind of like feeling like I'm going to re-traumatize myself with kind of a bunch more victim shaming and blaming.
Yeah.
It's probably scariest.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing to know, because I read your book, and it's a great book, and thank you again very much for writing and being so brave to write your book. And what really stood out to me, in the realm of like victim shaming and blaming, was that there was mention of cause and effect, right versus wrong, good versus evil. And it's so true that people tend to be so quick to judge, right? So I think being able to share the story, like it's really overcoming and accepting that vulnerability and then taking the next step, right? So in particular, was there a particular moment, that made you realize that, that said, I want to share this publicly?
Um, I don't know if it was a particular moment. I think it was just, with COVID, I was sort of, like everyone, forced to slow down and kind of stay at home. And I'm a performing artist, so like that kind of, my main outlet kind of got squelched for a while. And I just did a lot of journeying in that time, where I just watched a lot of like workshops and mindset classes. And then I just decided, like, I just would like to take voice lessons. And I know this sounds like it doesn't make it, it doesn't apply, but I promise it does. So I was like, I'm going to take voice lessons. And then she ended up being also a coach and had like a coaching program. And, and using my voice in that way was really, it's very intimidating to me. Like, I can express all day long with my body, but singing was a whole nother thing. But then like her coaching program was a really small container of like 6 women. And I just wrote one of the poems that's actually in this book. And I was like, and she used a Voxer chat as a way to kind of, again, like giving us power through our voice. And so I was like, maybe I should read this. And my husband was like, yeah, no, you should definitely read it. And I was so nervous. And I read this poem, and like the response I got from it and the support I got from just that little container was really powerful. And I was like, maybe this is the time that I can start putting this story that I've had for 20 years in my mind, like, down. And so I kind of just literally just kind of wrote the first chapter and read that to the group. And it kind of slowly but surely was like, okay, I think this is something that, I don't know, I think this is the time. And that was a really supportive, important container for me to start that process.
Yeah, and I think there's really no way to say exactly how much time one needs, because everybody has a different experience. And I think it's almost acceptable to say that one should take as much time as they need in order to arrive where they need to be, and in order to be in a place of comfort and confidence to be able to share those things. Now, you mentioned those poems, and I did. There are a few poems in the book that are very good to, and I read them and reread them, stopped and pondered and, reflected on them. One that really stood out to me was the one called Betty. So I'm not sure if you would like to share that with us today.
Sure, if you'd like me to. Do you want me to say anything about it, or just go ahead and read it? And then
yeah, feel free if you want to talk about it. Yeah, we would love to hear.
Okay, so Betty is kind of my inner critic. And she came through to me during like an NLP session. And I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, but it's kind of a way to get into your subconscious. And I've always been an extremely, like many of us, really harsh critic. I'm very hard on myself. I'm a perfectionist, and like, I can just be ruthless to myself, basically. And nothing's ever good enough. Like, I'm very patient, and I think, with other people and like their work, and I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. But like with me, I'm like, whatever. It's like never good enough. So, and I think we all have some version of an inner critic, right? Whether it's perfectionism or something else. And so I kind of like got her name and like got that was my, inner critic. And then during the coaching program I did with my voice coach, she had us do this really interesting exercise where we had to give them more of a persona. Like, I had to dress like her. And so like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, gosh, I don't know how to dress her. But like, I don't know, all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to make her like an S&M lady, like a like a super bonded, right, dominatrix. Yeah, because like it felt like that so much, right? Yeah, with like the whips and everything, because she just has so much power over me. And it really gave this voice to this other part of me, or my brain, or whatever you want to have it, so that I can actually like recognize it, when she's talking to me. I can say, you know what, Betty, I hear you. It's also like developing a reason why she's there in the first place, and it's to protect me, right? Just like yours is for you. And so it offers this protection, but they take it so far that then it becomes damaging. So it's kind of like, giving her persona, giving her name, being able to say, all right, Betty, I hear you, thank you very much, but I need you to go sit in the corner now, or help me in a more productive way. I don't know. So it's kind of shifting that relationship with our inner critic. So that's sort of how Betty was born. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Shift. Although she's a dominatrix in that
right.
realm, Betty can shift, yeah. But you're in control.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, and some days it's harder to get her to, stop talking than others, right? But so this is the poem that I created about Betty.
Okay.
I haven't read this out loud, so
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
no, thank you.
It was a
Okay. Betty. A tiny spark lay in the distance, one so fragile and new, lay dormant like a seedling, just bursting to break through. It sends out a signal, searching the globe, wondering which special person can decipher its code. Wondering, waiting, I can't wait to be found. But as the time ticks away, the spark sinks deeper in the ground. The joy drains away. I'll never find my mate, the one I am meant for, the one to change my fate. Its hope fades away. Its light grows dim. I may as well succumb. I have no choice but to give in. As the spark descends with sorrow and grief, its course rapidly changes and is left in disbelief. Who just rescued me? I thought for sure I was dead. And the spark gazes upwards to find you instead. It is you, my mate. We were meant to be. I am an idea, and it is you who'll set me free. Joy floods your body as you embrace your new friend, for you too had felt empty, your heart needing to mend. This is it, you exclaim. This will make me whole. I will proceed forth with glee. It will be something to behold. As you and your spark form this new partnership, your mind races with wonder. It even does a backflip. You smile and you skip. Your heart dances with a delight. You can't wait to bring this idea out into the light. As your mind opens up to what's possible and new, you notice another voice that's now here with you. It is quiet at first, but quickly explains, I will be heard. I will stake my claim. Your chest grows heavy. You let out a sigh, for this is no stranger who's come in the night. This voice has been with you for many years, it seems. It always shows up and ruins your dreams. It makes you feel small, worthless, and dumb. This voice, is difficult to overcome. It tells you you'll fail. Why bother? Just quit. You know you'll lose. You are an idiot. Not again, not again. Why do you do this to me? Why are you so hell-bent on making me unhappy? Every time I try to achieve something new, you come smash my dreams, make me feel so blue. You turn to your spark. I'm sorry, my friend. I'm no good. I'm defeated. I won't win in the end. The spark looks at you and sees your pain, but it vibrates and states a new perspective you'll gain. Give this voice a name and a personality too. Ask it some questions. Why is it part of your crew? You ponder this request, wondering what this will do, but you shrug, why not? I'll try something new. This, my friends, may seem weird, untrue, but if I can do it, well, so can you. I'll explain to you now how it happened for me, so that perhaps one day you can try it and see. Eyes closed, I breathed, asked this voice its name. Betty, she replied, with a hint of disdain. I allowed this voice, Betty, to come into view, leather catsuit, red lips, and a whip to boot. She stared me down, harsh look on her face, ready to berate me again, and do so with haste. Excuse me. I mustered the courage, looked her straight in the eye. Dominatrix Betty, you're so terrible. Why? It's so blatantly obvious, so strongly, she replied. You're safe with me. I keep you alive. Remember the first time you felt embarrassed and shamed? Well, I should have after, swore we'd never feel that again. I was shocked at first. I couldn't believe my ears, but I softened as I realized she tried to keep me safe all these years. I looked at her, my view fresh and new, and I said, I thank you, Betty. I really do. But from now on, I've got it from here. I can keep us all safe. Please trust me, dear. I sensed her reluctance to completely let go, but she had to take a back seat, though we needn't be foes. I told my new spark, come here, sit by me. The road may be bumpy, but I'll finally be free. Free to explore, seek, and discover new roads ahead and full with wonder. I turn to you now, inviting you to discover the voice deep inside of you. The one that's mean, degrading, and cruel. Ask their name, why they do what they do. You'll have your own, Betty. I know that you do. Face them now and speak to them true. Politely with love, tell them to step back, explain, I've got this, and that's a fact. I need you to trust me, I really do, because plain and simple, we've got some shit to do.
That's beautifully read and beautifully written. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I wanted to share too. When I was reading this, the part that really spoke to me was I think it was near the beginning. And I think it started off with you're in a state of hopelessness. You've sunken in deep, right? And that section that really spoke to me was the part that says, "The joy drains away. I'll never find my mate, the one I am meant for, the one to change my fate."
Mhm.
This spoke really loudly because I feel like in life we're always looking for answers or
Mhm.
looking for someone to give us those support and answers, whether it's a person, a partner, somebody you look up to, you know, your parents or siblings, family, you know, your boss or friends and whatnot kind of thing, right? But I think at the end of the day, it's about looking at yourself honestly and going deep there and to all the darker places that nobody knows about, and then finding that you are actually your own mate. And which
Yeah.
is why I love this poem about Betty, because while it goes down, it's taking you back up. Then it's giving you options and solutions, and it's filled with hope at the end of saying, hey, this is what you can also do. You can find your own Betty. You can name it something else, but there there is a Betty in us.
Right, right.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And you know, I think I want to pause here and think about. I know so much has happened, and it's very sad and unfortunate. Um, and through these unfortunate situations, it have brought the opportunity of resiliency, right? So, I think, of course, we don't know what it was like when we were at our younger self previously, but just at this moment, what would you tell your younger self, if anything? Like, what would it be?
That's a tough one for me because part of me feels like, well, I needed to come to these things by, on my own terms and my own way. And I feel like, anything you'd say to like your younger self would just seem trite and they wouldn't listen to, when you're young, you don't listen to older people anyway. But yeah, I don't know. That's just tough because it's like part of me would like, of course you're stronger than and blah blah blah. But it just feels so redundant and trite. I guess it's like um the thing that comes to my mind is like you made a choice to survive this and know that and trust that. And and that's kind of the most profound thing I can think that would be meaningful to say is like you chose to survive this, you chose to come through this on the other side, and trust that no matter what happens, like that was your choice. And now, you can take that choice and do something with it. And you will, and kind of just trust that.
So kind of trusting, I know the book also talks about, you know, trusting your own intuition, right? Kind of your gut feeling, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's important. A lot of times, many things externally happen, or, you know, people telling us things, right? And or even guidance with good intentions, sometimes not so good intentions, and things
Right.
happen. And we tend to just be like, you're almost kind of frazzled, right? Fumbling around, listening to
Mhm.
those, forgetting to trust your own intuition. So I think what you said is very true. It's very important. We don't know what to do. We don't know the answers because we haven't gone through those experiences. But what you know for sure is what you feel. And
Right.
that's the intuition of deep down, right? Telling you what to do, how to feel,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah. And I certainly didn't choose like this event, but it's like I chose to survive it. You know what I mean? Because I fully believe like I had a choice to live or die. And,
Yeah,
like I chose to live, I chose to survive, just like if anyone else went through something really harrowing. Like it's like, okay, you've
yeah,
experienced it, you chose to come through it on the other side. So like trust that. And like you said, trust your intuition. And
yeah.
you know, it may be bumpy, but you'll find your way, like
Yeah, and I'm sorry, and you know, to mention, but you know, this is about your book, but I know it's so hard, and it was so horrific. What happened, and about what you experienced, and in that incident, of being alone and the stabbing and all those situation and the victim, you know, shaming and blaming, um, that people have placed doubts even in yourself to
Mhm.
start questioning, did this really happen kind of thing, right? 'Cause sometimes that's what happens, right? And then you start to believe that because of those self-doubts, right? What I really want to ask you is how have you continued to choose survival over the years?
I think, like I said earlier, like anytime I've kind of felt like, what's the point? Or, you know, like kind of giving up, or why am I even here? Or, you know, any of those kind of negative kind of self-talk things. It's like going back to that original feeling of like, I chose to survive this. And I want to do something with my life. I refuse to let this person completely derail me or completely take my life away, because that's letting someone else control my life. And I don't want that. You know, and I fully believe, like, I'm definitely one of those people. And I talk about this in my book a little bit, like my favorite way is to like avoid. I don't need to feel that. I'm just gonna go over there and keep busy and do these things over there. I don't need that. I don't need that over there. But eventually that voice will get louder and louder and louder and louder, right? Until it can like break you. And so I'm getting better at feeling my feelings. It's still not my very first choice, or, you know, I love to do, because I love to be happy and silly and fun, right? Because that's also who I am. But these like emotions of, we all experience sadness, we all experience grief, and it's so important to let those things come too. And there's days like the other day, actually, it's been really gloomy and rainy here in Austin, and that's pretty unusual. And I always told my husband, I'm like, I can't live in a place that's gloomy and rainy all the time, because I will just slip in bed all the time, like, right? And so like I kind of felt myself getting just kind of like sad and, you know, a little bit like, and you know, I try, you know, you try the things to like cheer myself up, but I was like, you know, today's just a sad day, and that's okay. I'm just going to feel this sadness. I'm going to feel into it. And, you know, and know that tomorrow, you know, tomorrow's a new day, but it is, you know, and like, just, but like, I've almost been better at, if I just let those feelings in and kind of just like, okay, today I'm going to let myself feel sad. I'm going to let this feel, even if I don't know why, because I used to struggle with that a lot. Like, why am I feeling this way? How do I fix it? You know, but now I'm just like, you know, I don't need to know why. I'm just feeling this way, and I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to welcome it in, and I'm like, okay, sadness, you can sit here with me for the day, you know, and then like, and just kind of nurture it a little bit and go to bed, and then try to like kind of wake up as it is a new day. Right. And what can I do a little bit differently today? So, I feel like I just talked in circles. I'm sorry, but like, it's like kind of pulling those things in, and
Following. Yeah. I was like,
sorry.
sadness. Yeah.
Where am I going with this? Oh, so choosing survival. So yeah. So it's like choosing to even take those days that I feel a little bit sad or a little bit down, and being like, okay, that's okay. I'm not going to berate myself or give myself a hard time or let Betty tell me what a piece of crap I am. You know, like I should be doing all these things. I'm great at shooting all over myself. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It's like, all right, I'm going to take today. It's when you kind of let one day turn into 5 days, turn into 5 weeks, that, you know, it's kind of like, okay, now we really need to like, now we do need to do something, right? But I think just listening to myself more and accepting some of those days that don't feel so great is also okay. And then knowing that those days allow me to feel the happiest, right? It's like, you can't have the light without the dark. And I kind of like, I feel like that's my mantra in a way. It's kind of like, it's okay to have these negative feeling days, because you're going to have those positive feeling days, and you'll know it that much more deeply. There's my one spiel about choosing survival. And then the other one is literally going back to like, I will not let this person determine my life. I refuse. And just literally making a choice. So that was why, like, that's part of my title was choice, because I really do feel like we have the power of choice, and really deciding like, I'm not going to let anybody else determine my life or where I want to be or what I want to do. And that's, yeah, sorry, I was like too
No,
old answer.
100% true. They don't get to rob our life. Okay.
Right.
That's exactly it. And taking that power back within us, right? We own that power. And you know what you said, I was following you because it made me think about I was listening to Ariana Huffington for Huffington Post, and I know she did a talk. She was talking about how a lot of times things happen, emotions happen, we feel it, right? And but at the same time, we kind of, you know, we're just stuck there analyzing it, or we're not actually looking at it in the eye, right? And then just sweeping it under a rug and then just keep going kind of thing. So he said that instead of doing that, we need to, like, if you feel really angry or really sad, you know, you just really confront it, really face it, and really feel those emotions. And then, because once you do that, that's when you can get up and say, hey, I made brought awareness to this, and I can do something about it. Then you can take the next step. But until you take that step to, you know, it's a difficult step sometimes to face it, you're not making it aware. You're not bringing awareness that, and that means you're not giving time to understand it yourself, because a lot of times it is about us understanding it ourselves. So I think that's really, really important. And I think the thing is, this whole writing process, I think it has a positive effect in your healing journey throughout, right? So
Mhm.
it has, right? And I also recognize and appreciate that you're a very, very talented woman, and you are not just a talented writer, and I think you're a dancer, right? You
Yes.
and you write, and you've done some other film work, which we'll come back to later. But and you feel free to share now if you like. But using the power of art to, I guess, heal and connect us to ourselves and each other. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit deeper about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of, so I started out mainly as a dancer. I have a BFA in dance, and so that's just something that I felt really strongly pulled to. And I feel like even if you're a spectator of art, like especially performing arts, I mean, the point is to allow us to feel something that perhaps we don't know is there, or we don't know how to express ourselves, and it connects us in a way that sometimes words can't. And if you think about all of us being energy, right? It's all energy exchanges. And so like you have that moment of that energy exchange. And even if you go see like a painting, if it makes you feel something that maybe even you can't put your finger on it, it still kind of stirs those emotions up a little bit and allows us to see them a little bit more clearly, or even know that they're there at all. And so I think art in any way can just bring people together. It can express things in ways which we don't know how else to express. And it's just incredibly powerful. And I know with art, it's hard to not judge ourselves, right? Like if someone tries to draw, like, oh, I can't do that, or oh, I can't dance, or I can't do that. Um, it's really hard to get that judgment away, but like if you can, just kind of let yourself open up, there's so much healing that can be done through it. And even if it's something you don't want to pursue yourself, going to see it, it might stir up, like I said, something in you that you didn't know how else to express or to perceive or understand. So yeah, I just think there's so much power in healing in arts.
And that's a really good point. That means it might be scary, right?
Mhm.
To
Mhm.
face it or bring it to light and experience. But what I'm also hearing is that even if it's scary and you had to stop and step away from it, that doesn't mean you end it forever or it's gone forever. You could come back to it later, right? So it's always available there, right? So we don't have to say that we reached the dead end and that was it, right? Kind of thing. So yeah. So I think that's really powerful and amazing. Um, Now I think, leading to the point where I kind of want to come back a little bit is that what message can you share with women around the globe, in terms of, there's two things I want to talk about is how to push through fear when fear is holding you back. And
Mhm.
then if, for example, if other women's dealing with, victim shaming and blaming, right? And I know each different circumstances, they can be comparable or not, kind of thing, and they're all different and unique. But if there are any tips for fighting the underlying sense of fear and terror that remains even years after, different types of attacks that women experience.
Yeah. Um, of course, I'm a big believer in like therapy and professional help. So it kind of depends on where you are in your journey. So certainly when you need that help, I'm always like, please seek it out. And you have to be your own advocate. So if you, let's say, find a therapist and it's not a great fit, there's another one that will be. And I know it's hard and can be tedious, but it's so valuable and important. The other thing that I will say is like, there's so much shame when we keep things to ourselves, and we're really worried about like, well, are people going to outcast me? Am I going to seem weird? Are people not going to like me anymore? And that keeps us living in fear, right? And that keeps us from doing things. Like I feel like that's the biggest like thing that keeps us from doing anything, right? We're just so afraid of like what's going to happen, and what if it goes wrong, and what if I fail, and what if everyone judges me. But like at the end of the day, I guess it's like what happens if it goes right? What's going to happen if you do get this, and or what happens if, like, it's sort of like almost in your mind imagining and feeling into what happens if those things do come true, and what happens if the opposite happens,
Yeah.
and that's really important, I think, sometimes, to sit with both of those scenarios and really feel into both of them. Because even if, let's say, you do lose a friendship over it, well, maybe that person wasn't really the person for you anyway. Maybe that wasn't really as healthy of a relationship as you thought. And there will be other people for you. And I know that's scary because it's so like the unknown is always scary, right? No matter what, because we're human beings. And at the end of the day, we don't love change, right? I think that's like a universal truth. Because we just don't. Right. Right. And so like, kind of like, I think there's so much power and strength in sharing with each other and and coming to someone and be like, hey, I have something that's, that's happened to me. I would love to share it with you when you're open to listening. And then kind of just really opening that conversation, that dialogue up can be so incredibly freeing. So I would say like find people to talk to, and breath work, like just breathing, there's so much power in that too. Like just taking the time to breathe, and then, because if you notice, like when you get scared, you start your mind starts racing and you start to kind of stop breathing. It's like taking that moment, like, okay, it's kind of like Becky, right? Like, okay, like giving fear a name, giving it a persona. Like, okay, I see you, I hear you, I know you're here to keep me safe, because that time in second grade, I got real scared when I had to give a presentation, whatever it was. It's like that's literally what's happening is your brain remembers those scenarios, and your subconscious is like, no, we don't want that. We don't want that again. And so when you understand that how your brain works, it's like, okay, this is how my brain is trying to keep me safe. And I can recognize that now. I'm going to breathe through this, like find there's different, like inhale for 4 counts, exhaling for 4 counts, those kinds of things. And just stopping the I call it my hamster wheel, of thoughts, and just being like, okay, I feel this. I know that this is fear. This isn't the truth. I don't know what's going to happen. And that's a little scary, but that's okay. And, I'm going to choose to overcome that. I'm going to choose to talk to this person. I'm going to choose to start this project. I'm going to choose to see and be open and curious about what may happen. And you might lose a few friendships, right? Like I know this book isn't for every single person. Not every single person's going to love it. And of course, part of me hates that idea, but I also have to trust that it is for some people and it can really hopefully help some people. And so I have to remember that for myself too, because it is scary. So I hope I answered that.
Wonderful. You're so rich. No, it's amazing. And I like how you mentioned that the book is for certain people, maybe not for some, but here's the takeaway. I think even for Her Stories Untold, this global book project, there are stories that is for some, maybe not all. But here's the thing, sometimes reading about things that come, is out of your comfort zone or realm of experience or knowledge is not a bad thing. It is not a negative experience or information. Okay, it's all really to do what the individual thinks or does with that information. So take what is applicable, what can support, what is interesting to you, and I think that's where one can take away from any situation, any stories, any sort of information, and see the positive in that, right? So it's like people talking to people. I always say, like, you don't have to always agree, right, to come to a but certainly just having the respect and the time given to each other to hear the differences, right? And acknowledging those differences, right? So yeah, so I think it's so important to do that. And I love how you share so many different tips about, dealing and pushing through when there's fear, when there's shame, and to be able to share is the most important thing. And I think, once again, going back to our earlier talks today, I think I mentioned that you also have to take the time to heal and then arrive at a place where you're confident and comfortable and to share. Because I mean, from experience and hearing different stories of other women, so, when one is not ready and someone just comes out and, whether it's good intention or bad intention or lack of intention, right? And of thought, and they ask you to tell them about certain situations or comments and and whatnot kind of thing, you're just not ready to share. And it can give you a sort of like a nervous breakdown or something. And that whole trigger repeats, right? So you're kind of retracting from how much you've healed and all the progress that you made, right? And you're kind of having to almost start over all over again, right? Kind of thing. And I wanted to talk about how earlier I had mentioned cause and effect, right and wrong, good and versus evil, and victim shaming and blaming. And I feel like it's almost time relevant, like the different time periods. I know the whole unfortunate incidents, it happened like in the late 90s, right? And then running into the early 2000s, right? And I do want to stop here to mention that, I think the activist Tarana Burke, right? She coined the term for Me Too in 2006, and it wasn't until 2017 when the actress Alyssa Milano, said to come out to talk about your different experiences, right? That people became really talking about it, and I think it was since then it's an open conversation. People were supporting and empowering and uplifting each other, and especially women uplifting other women. And here's an important note I'm going to make. I think women should always try to uplift other women
Mm.
rather than compete, kind of thing, because we're not, every one of us is different. Okay, we should accentuate the positive and look for ways to bring harmony or balance or to support each other. If you cannot do any of that, don't do anything at all. So I feel like that's really important. But I think what I'm trying to say is that it almost feels like if something were to happen today, it's going to be all over social media, all over the news, and somebody will be listening. A lot of people will be listening and commenting on that, right? So, but having said, fast forward to now, it's been 5 years since all of those things happened. I think there was a lot of focus. I just read on Forbes on the news today, is that essentially, I guess the laws and policymakers need to re-examine how they make those laws and policies so that those things, like women coming out to share their story and then suffering repercussions about them, right? And this is not just for women. I think men equally have, scary experiences, and I think maybe even more stigmatized from, speaking out loud, right? And when they do, they're scared of the same things, right? Different
Yeah.
experiences. Yeah. So I think it really applies to a lot of us. Yeah. So um, and I wanted to, I guess we're gonna segue to, going back to the power of art, right? And that's very positive. What you shared, you're also a talented actress yourself, and I believe you were writing and directing something. Did you want to share a little bit about those projects?
Sure. It has nothing to do with this. I wrote like a horror comedy musical, basically. It's about 9.5 minutes. It just got completed.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about it. So it's kind of, again, it's something like I don't, it may not be for everybody. Everyone's not gonna love it. But I think it's hilarious and I'm pretty happy with it, excited about it.
Yeah.
So it's just being, again, willing to like kind of like, what is this, like, let your freak flag fly or whatever it is. It's like we're all a little bit weird, and we all, and so it's kind of like, okay, this is something I had in my mind. It just popped in my mind. I was like, I think this could be really funny. And so it's yeah, it's one of those, it's hard for me to excuse me, like put it into like a little sentence, but I kind of said like it's a little bit kooky and a little bit spooky, like a little kooky, spooky, spectacular. And the other project that I have in my mind is I want to take another poem that I wrote in my book called The Cage, and I would like to create a dance on a film based on that. So that's like the one I have kind of, I think, that I want to tackle next. So it'd be a very different, thing from the one I just produced and created and directed and wrote and all that. But so yeah, it's another way to connect people. I think people connect through various genres, whether it's horror or comedy or whatever. And again, just makes you think a little bit, makes you feel something. And but I'm excited about this one. I just started submitting to the film festival circuit for the other one's called Hot Sauce.
Yeah.
It's the little horror musical comedy. So
That's so exciting. Like I'm looking forward to seeing your work. So please do let us know when they do come out and when it's available and how to watch it. Because these days it's the struggle and challenges of what, where.
I know. And it's usually have to go to like the year of the circuit, right? And then we can kind of try and find a way to put it on streaming or something. I don't know.
I do have a question because I've been talking and meeting a lot of filmmakers, directors, writers, and stuff like that. In different stages, of course, in their career. And I think there's often a lot of like caution, just like, oh, I don't know how to start this, right? There's not enough funding. I don't know who to talk to. And they have like these really, really great ideas, right? And where are they going with this, and how to reach people and kind of thing, right? For yourself, when you did your short film, Like I know I know making a film is definitely not something easy to do. Okay, it is just here on a side note. It's easy to watch a film, a TV show, a documentary, and it's so interesting and so good for, you know, whether it's 20 minutes or 1 hour or 3 hours that you spend watching it. Okay, it's so easy to just receive that and take it in, and that's it. Okay, but there is so much work and hard work that goes behind the camera and in front of the camera to make that happen for you in that concise and, you know, condense it to that short segment of time, to produce the project that, you know, the movies or films that you're watching, right, kind of thing. So how yeah, like what pushed you through, like, you know, you had an idea and you're like, I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna roll with it, and did you kind of just start?
Yeah, I mean, we'd moved to Austin from New Orleans, and I was just kind of frustrated because I was getting a decent amount of auditions and work there, and then kind of moving to a new spot. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to start all over again, and I just wanted more opportunities to act, you know. So like, I just kind of literally thought, like, what can I write that's I can film in my house, because I don't like location scouting or any of that stuff. I would not like to be a producer. I was like, I don't want to do that. So like, what can I film in my house that I can star in? And that's literally like how it started. And I just kind of
Yeah.
opened up my computer, and I just feel like, oddly, I just feel like it kind of just kind of flowed out of me. I don't even remember like how I came up with all the little ideas, but I do remember like laughing when I was creating the songs, like singing them in my head. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so funny. And so kind of getting something on paper. And I do tend to stress myself up with the how am I gonna do this? How am I
Yeah.
gonna have the funding? How am I gonna find these people, right? And so that is something that I get caught up in a lot. So it's like, okay, I'm just gonna write the script, you know, with the intention of knowing like, okay, I'm gonna film it in my house and keep the locations small and that kind of thing. But and then one of my friends has gotten into filmmaking, so I knew he had a bunch of equipment, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, can you help me with this?" Right? And then I did cast it with one of my best friends, an actor, so I got her involved, and she's probably like mad at me for making her sing and dance, but like, she got dance for you, Lynn. Okay, I don't know if I'm ever do that again, but I'm like, she looked amazing. Like,
Yeah.
so just finding like one of my other friends who's never really an actor, like I knew, you know, this kind of thing, like there were certain roles I could give to people that and maybe not didn't have a lot of experience,
Yeah.
because they were just kind of lip syncing to what I'd recorded for them, and I choreographed for people that knew were not dancers.
Yeah.
And then just finding the right people that I could help. And you know, and I did another film where it was just kind of like food and credit, and there was like 4 of us involved, but I had done the same thing for other people. So sometimes it's just finding the other people that want to get something done. I mean, you can literally film something on cell phones now. The cameras
Yeah.
are so good, right? So you don't have to have all this crazy equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
But it is just letting yourself kind of get past the how am I going to do this, why, what, how much, when, you know, just put something on paper, get it going, and then when you have that will, you have the way. It's like you have to meet the people, you have to network. But if you really, really want to do it, you could put it on your cell phone and find a few other people that want to do it with you. And then you can kind of work together and create like a little team.
Yeah.
So it is
No.
hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Yeah.
networking does not always come the most natural to me, but like, you know, it's sometimes finding film groups that are local to your area, or you know, other writing groups even, or like anything like that, just kind of get your juices flowing and meeting other people that want to do the same thing.
Oh, like-minded people, right? So, and I
Yeah.
think that's so important because I meet a lot of people, and I'm grateful to, you know, have those connections. But it's like you don't know immediately what's to come, but it could be a good chunk of time later. But somebody comes to mind, you're like, oh, that person, that's perfect, right, for the
Yeah.
project. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, that's great information and experience that you share. I think it's about not just having an idea, but not just, you know, kind of just roll with it, even if
Mhm.
you adjust a little bit, sending out email here and there, reaching out to people, connecting, and then reaching out to your contacts, asking them to dance and act, for example. Yeah. And but at the end of it, it's a great experience, of course. And then yeah, and just not being so concerned. I think funding is always a big question and issue, and absolutely an obstacle and barrier, right? Especially for indie filmmakers and whatnot kind of thing. But I think you're right. Like with the camera phones that we have, we've got like 4K, 8K capabilities in different models of the phone. And I think if you could have one and, you know, get some basic lighting and stuff like that, you know, action, right? So that's great. I think yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to your film projects, and please feel free to share that information. What I want to ask is, how do we get a copy of your book? Where should we look for this book, and so on?
Yeah. So right now it's on Amazon. I'll
Okay.
show you. Here it is, but it's on Amazon.
Yeah,
I want to get it in
that's a
other,
hardcover.
yeah, it is a
Oh,
hardcover.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to get it into other retailers as well. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like, again, this is all new to me, right? But so you can go on Amazon, you can either look up my name or putting choosing survival Lynn is enough
Yeah.
to kind of find it.
Yeah.
And then eventually I do want to do a book on tape as well. I think it's what still you call it. Tape anyway. Aging myself. But right now it's on paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. And then yeah, and then you can also get to me at choosingsurvival@gmail.com. If anyone wants to reach out to me personally, you can do it that way as well.
Okay, perfect.
And my website's Lynn Forney at www.lynnforney.com. So
Yeah.
you can also link there too.
So just to summarize here, we can find your book on Amazon, and I will share those links with everybody else with the comment post after this session today, as well as your website. And if you want to reach out to Lynn, what was your email again?
choosingsurvival@gmail.com.
choosingsurvival@gmail.com. So feel free to reach out to Lynn directly. Okay. And yeah, so that's very exciting. I'm going to be sharing all that information with everybody. For those of you that have missed this talk, don't worry, because this is a recorded session as part of always for Her Stories Untold. So you can easily access these videos in the video section of the Her Stories Untold page. I want to thank you so much, Lynn, today for joining us today, because I really and sincerely appreciate your time and your sharing of your journey.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to being a part of your book as well. I'm excited
Yeah.
to write. Yeah.
Yeah, so very excitedly, Lynn is also going to be a part of the Her Stories Untold global book. It's still in an ongoing process. So what I wanted to share is that because each journey and story is unique, they're all full of color, full of diversity, full of richness. If anyone wants to nominate somebody else, feel free to visit www.herstoriesuntold. And I think our existence itself is a journey. So if anyone has a story about success, love, relationship, hardships, family, illness, death, children, travels, gender role changes, okay, disability, positivity, resiliency, trauma, lessons in life, I encourage you to share. Okay, they are so important. Don't ever think that it's not, because somebody out there, and this is the reason I started Her Stories Untold, somebody out there will hear your story, and that is going to empower and inspire them to take that next step, whatever that is, however big that is, but it is necessary in their life. Okay. And I think part of Her Stories Untold is that I want to really hone in on woman, everyday woman, because that's at the end of the day, no matter who you are, that's who we are. We're everyday people. And these are stories within reach and stories of relevancy. And again, you don't have to experience every single story or every single journey, but take what you need. Okay. And empower, inspire yourself and maybe other women as well. Right. So because that journey is guaranteed to empower and inspire others, both men and women. I've spoken to men before and they felt empowered and inspired. Yeah. So thank you to them as well. So thank you very much, Lynn, again for your time today. And yeah, we'll be looking forward to all your other projects too as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So yeah, hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.